And if a
We're not discussing cosmology, Dr. Krauss.
You're right. We're discussing nonsense.
What you're doing is
nothing useful to say.
What you're doing is you're trying to introduce.
Okay.
Mute him.
All right.
I have nothing to say. He's just intellectual master.
First of all, Dr. Krauss, first of all, let me thank you for your time. We're approaching the final segments. And now, without further ado, please, you and Darth Dawkins can have a brief conversation. And then we will discuss briefly your book, your article that you wrote about the ideological corruption of science. And then we will say goodbye. Thank you so much in advance. Okay. Darth, you there?
I am.
Darth, I can't hear you. I'm having trouble hearing your voice.
I heard him say I am.
Here.
All right, Darth, the floor is yours. The floor is yours, Darth. Please take it away.
Yeah, Dr. Krauss, earlier you stated that God is not necessary. You can only make such a statement if and only if you first determine that God does not exist and that he's not ultimate and fundamental, instituting what's possible and impossible on a metaphysical level. How have you rationally justified?
I can ask, can I create a universe? No, sorry, I disagree with that completely. I can point out that my pen isn't necessary for that tree to grow across the way either. I can ask, and the point is, can I explain from fundamental principles and make predictions about how a universe can come into existence without any external guidance from an intelligent being? And if I can, then I can say that the existence of such an intelligent being is not necessary for that to happen. I don't have to ask any questions about the intelligent being.
You didn't let me finish my question.
I know I didn't. Okay. I disagree with your premise, so I wanted to.
Okay. Well, the problem here is God by definition in such a conversation like this would be defined as what is ultimate and fundamental, instituting what's possible and impossible. If you say God is not necessary, that to all possibility and impossibility, then that entails that God does not exist. Okay. Now, if you haven't may I finish, please? May I finish, please? This is the second time you've cut me off. Okay.
Yeah, I have because I disagree with your premise.
Okay. Well, why don't you let me finish? Okay.
Okay.
Now, your position. Am I correct? It's your position that God does not exist.
How can I? No, my position is that there's no evidence for the existence of an intelligent being, and there's no necessity to understand the universe to have such an intelligent being. Whether such an intelligent being exists, let me finish now. Whether such an intelligent being persists or not is something that is a question that I can't answer.
Okay, so then for you, the existence of God as what is ultimate and fundamental to all possibility, is that still an open question for you?
I don't. I mean, your definition of God is not what my definition of God. So it's a semantic question again. What I say is what's necessary to understand the universe is what we learn about the universe and the empirical laws that govern the universe. It turns out the universe can come into existence based on those empirical laws. Whether there's absolute and necessary, those things are not relevant to me as a scientist. They just aren't questions I come up with.
Okay, so when we talk about God, we're talking about what's ultimate and the creator. Okay, what is metaphysically first and primary, what institutes what's possible and impossible. Okay, so that's how we're defining God.
When you say first, what do you mean first?
That which is ultimate and fundamental.
No, when you say first, what do you mean first? When you say first, you mean before?
I'm saying no. I'm not speaking chronologically. I'm talking about what is fundamental. Why anything is possible. You know, this is about the fourth or fifth time you've interrupted me, Dr. Krauss.
Well, maybe we should have this discussion then.
Well, I'm being very polite to you, and you're being very rude to me. I'm simply trying to get a question out. And that's the sixth time you've interrupted me.
Just a minute. Professor Krauss, would you like to continue this conversation?
I want a back and forth. If I have to listen to a tirade, I'm not interested.
I haven't been in a tirade. You have been interrupting me. No, don't cut me off. You know,
Darth, just a minute. Okay, Professor Krauss, please go ahead, and Darth will follow.
I was asking you a question.
a question.
Okay, Darth, please, just a minute. Okay, you have to let Professor Krauss engage.
No, let him ask his question.
Okay, go ahead, Darth. Ask the question. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wasn't on a tirade. I didn't interrupt you, yet you interrupted me the whole time. Now, if you don't determine that if you haven't determined that God does not exist, then how could you determine whether or not all facts are not related to him? You would first have to determine that God does not in fact exist. Consequently, therefore, nothing could stand in causal relations to him. How did you determine that all facts that you're acquainted with do not stand in causal relations to God without first determining God does not exist? How did you do that, Dr. Krauss?
Well, because I don't claim to know everything. And that's the main point. Science doesn't claim to know the answer like people who
I didn't ask
they
you a
do.
scientific question.
Okay, now you're interrupting me.
Oh,
want me to answer or not?
so you don't like that?
Okay, there's no sense of having this discussion. Thanks.
No, I asked
Okay.
you a legitimate
All right,
question.
all
You
right,
didn't
Darth,
answer it.
okay, Darth,
How
he's
did
not
you
interested. Darth, he's not interested. I'm not interfering. Professor Krauss says he
No,
determined
I'll answer.
that-
You just mute him, and I'll answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The point is that as I tried to say to you before, I never argued that God doesn't exist. But the question you're asking, it's like saying to me, I cannot describe the universe until I prove that unicorns don't exist.
Okay, you
Unless
didn't
I
address my
know,
question.
and I can somehow describe. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
And my point is
In
that
causal relations to God.
If you are arguing that God is necessary for the universe to exist, I can't argue against that claim. But there's no empirical evidence for the claim.
I
That's
didn't
all
make
I'm
an
saying.
argument to you, Dr. Krauss. Position. Now you
Okay,
say
so
that all of the
Darth, just a minute.
No, it's okay.
Stop
Let's
muting Darth. Stop muting Darth, guys. I promised I
Yeah.
wouldn't. Just a,
yeah,
Darth,
you
just a second.
promised I wouldn't get muted. Okay.
Okay, just
Now,
okay.
Dr. Krauss.
Darth, just give me a minute, Darth. Give me a minute. Okay. So, Professor, let me try to reorder this. Okay. So, Professor Krauss, the mods, please don't mute Darth as long as he isn't rude. So he wants to ask you a question. Darth, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Krauss, I don't believe that you really addressed my question. You talked around it. You stated there's no evidence for God, which is the equivalent of saying that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not stand in causal relations to God. How did you determine that all facts do not necessitate God? Have you determined what is ultimate and fundamental?
I'm saying all the facts I know. I don't know all. The whole point of being a scientist is that I don't know all the facts in the universe. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth being a scientist because there would be nothing to learn. There's more we don't understand about the universe than we do.
You're not addressing the question.
Hold up. But based on everything we know about the universe, we can, just like if I take a ball and throw it in the air, Newton's laws will be sufficient for me to understand its trajectory. I don't have to know about whether the person who threw it is Democrat or Republican, or
you're not
white or black.
Question, Dr. Krauss.
Well, then I guess I don't
You're
understand.
talking around it. I'll repeat the question. How did you determine that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate standing in causal relations to God? How did you determine that?
Because the predictions that those facts produce theories which give predictions which give complete explanations.
That does not address the question, Dr. Krauss, at all.
Right,
okay?
It doesn't, which is
If
one
God
of the
is defined, if God is defined as what is ultimate and fundamental to all possibility and impossibility, and you say all facts do not stand in causal relations to that fundamental thing, God, I want to know, how did you determine that? Can you answer that, please?
Well, the point, yeah. The answer is that you're inventing something, a term. You're making an assumption that something is fundamental and necessary. How do you know?
Oh, so you don't believe that there's anything ultimate or fundamental, sir?
There may not be. I don't know.
Okay, so then if nothing is fundamental or ultimate, you are in a chance world. And if you're in a chance world, anything can happen. And if anything can happen, that destroys intelligibility. Do you believe that chance is ultimate, sir?
Yes.
Okay, well, then you've now destroyed your ability to know anything, because if chance is ultimate.
That's not true. I know a lot more about physics than you.
No, let me explain to you why this is a problem. If chance is ultimate, then you cannot say what is, can be, or cannot be. It doesn't matter what your predictive success is. Okay, that could be just a cosmic lucky strike.
Now, because you don't understand chance. Physics depends upon chance. It's probabilities. If you know the probability distribution,
that's not what I'm meant by chance.
Let me finish. Quantum mechanics depends upon chance, but it's also deterministic. quantum mechanics says that there are probabilities that you'll measure the result of some experiment, but the underlying Schrodinger equation is a second-order differential equation whose results are completely deterministic.
That's not how I'm using the word chance.
Well, you better learn how to use
You're
the word
arguing
chance
against a
when you talk
version
about
of
the universe.
chance that I'm not positing. Okay.
Oh, good.
A
That's why
chance
we can't have this
world,
discussion.
when I say a chance, when I say chance is ultimate, I'm not using the word chance the way you just did. Chance is that there is
Well,
nothing
that's because you're not a
ultimate.
physicist.
Well, what I'm not discussing physics with you. I'm discussing
Okay,
metaphysics.
Darth, just a minute.
Let me just finish, okay? Dr.
Right.
Krauss, when I say chance, I mean there's nothing that is ultimate and fundamental dictating what's possible and impossible. So in your view, your view is then anything is possible, nothing is impossible. Is that your view, Dr. Krauss?
If there's a multiverse, that could be the case. That means
No, I
there's an
said,
infinite
do
number
you
of laws.
believe that nothing is impossible?
Do you want my answer or not? Just tell me.
Yeah, I want an answer. Do you believe that nothing is
Do you
impossible?
want my answer or not?
Okay,
I'm
just
waiting.
Darth, just a minute.
And if you don't like my
Darth,
answer, I don't give a damn.
Okay.
No,
The
the
answer is-
problem is you haven't been
just-
addressing
Darth,
my question.
Darth,
Let me
just a
give
minute.
you
Darth,
my
just a minute.
answer.
Just a
My
second. So,
answer is, if
Professor
there's a
Krauss,
multiverse.
Yeah.
Okay, can I answer or not? As a physicist
Obviously.
would answer.
I'm not asking you a physics question. Okay? I'm asking you, is anything at all impossible?
It's a physics question.
No, it's not. It's a metaphysical question,
Well, that's
sir.
because you don't understand physics.
I'm not a
I'm sorry,
materialist
we
or a
can't-
monist like you are, sir.
I know, and that's why
Okay,
you spend
good.
all your time.
But
that's
you're
why
assuming
that's
you're
why-
assuming that I'm a monist or a naturalist. All I want to
No,
know from you
no,
is
it's obvious that you're not.
anything impossible
Obviously you're not, which is
metaphysically?
It's a question that I really don't care about.
Well,
And
so
that's why
you don't have an
because
answer
if
to it? So you don't have an answer to the question.
No. It's a question that
Okay,
isn't worth discussing.
so then if you can't say that anything is impossible, then you destroy your ability to rationally justify what is, can be, or cannot be, because nothing's impossible.
I may destroy your rational ability, but not my rational.
No, you're not
ability.
understanding the
I
implications,
predict
Dr.
lots of-
Krauss.
thank
Dr.
you for telling me I
Krauss,
don't understand.
if
You
nothing
don't
is
understand the
impossible,
multiverse either.
okay, I'm
If
not
there's a
discussing
multiverse-
cosmology. Dr. Krauss, I
Let's-
didn't invoke cosmology.
Let me try and
But I'm
explain
pointing
something
out
to
to
you.
you.
Do you want me to
Can I get a
explain
word
something
in
to you
before I
that you
have
don't
to go,
understand?
Dr. Krauss? Dr. Krauss, if nothing on a metaphysical level, on the
Okay,
grand
Darth.
scheme of things, is impossible, then you cannot say what is, can, or cannot be, because nothing's impossible.
That's
Okay,
right.
you've
And if there's a
destroyed.
multiverse- and if a
We're not
if there's a
discussing
multiverse-
cosmology, Dr. Krauss.
You're right. We're discussing nonsense. Can
What
you
you're
talk- I have
doing
nothing,
is
nothing useful to say.
What you're doing is you're trying to introduce.
Okay.
Mute him.
All right.
I have nothing to say. He's just
Okay.
intellectual masturbation.
Okay, got it. So Darth, I didn't break my promise. You got it, but Professor Krauss doesn't want to. All right, so Professor Krauss,
I feel like somebody needs to give Krauss a pat on the back for actually being such a good sport and dealing with that the whole time. I will praise Krauss for that personally.
Yeah, you're. Thank you so much for this engagement. I hope that
And let
didn't
me-
come
let
off
me-
too hard on.
No. Look, he's got to be in his bonnet, and he thinks a typical thing. Thinks that philosophy, that those kind of questions, which he doesn't want to know the answer to in terms of physical terms, he can understand in the abstract. And let me just point out, if there's a multiverse, and if there are an infinite number of laws of physics, then there are universes in which anything can happen. We don't live in all universes, however, we live in one of them. That's a scientific answer to his question. If he wants a different answer, I can't give it to him. Okay.
All right. So Professor Krauss.